What's up, everybody? Nick Powell's, publisher of 1851franchise.com, back with what I would call my favorite type of segment that exists, which is the Meet the Z discussion. And Brian, I'm very excited to talk to you about your story. So what I like to start with how you accidentally fell into franchising. Like a long time ago, you decide I want to get into franchising. Talk about that journey, because I think it connects really well with anybody that's out there thinking about franchising. Is how do you even get to the starting point of saying, I want to be in franchising?
Well, I be honest with you, I didn't even know what a franchise was. I was about to start college, and I all through high school, I mowed lawns and I bagged groceries for income, and didn't want to do that through college. So I was out at a party one night over summer, and talked to a friend of mine and kind of said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. I can start within a month." And he said, "Well, I work at this restaurant called the Melting Pot, and I think we're hiring for the kitchen." And I said, "Who do I talk to, and when can I talk to them?" And so he set up a time for me a couple of days later, and I went and interviewed, and I was hired as a dishwasher to start, and then with the promise that I could move in, to food prep and food service, and eventually maybe a server at some point. So I took the position. I worked in the kitchen for about a year. It took about that long for a position as a server to come available. With a college town, that's kind of the way things roll. This is back in 1982. And a year later, I started serving. And about a year after that, the Johnston brothers, who were franchisees at the time, ended up purchasing the franchise itself. And that was the first time I actually heard about franchising. So I was kind of there from their start as a franchisor. Bob Johnston worked with me. He was the same age as I am. And he ended up moving down to Tampa. He managed the store for a little while before he moved to Tampa. So I kind of saw his journey and his growth. And that's part of what made me interested as well. So I guess around halfway through my junior year, I was thinking, what am I going to do when I graduate college? And knew I wanted to be in business. I was really thinking more towards real estate as far as appraisal and potentially development. And I started doing some interviews and everything. And then a couple of guys that I worked with ended up buying a franchise when they graduated, Dale and Robert Brady, and moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. And so that really kind of piqued my interest. And so then I started inquiring about it a little bit, and asked Mike Johnston more about it. And he was, very forthcoming with information and what it's like to manage and own a restaurant and own your own business, which really intrigued me. And so after I graduated, I worked in management at Mike's restaurant for about a year and a half, and I saw the management end of it. And at the same time, I appraised real estate during the day, managed the restaurant at night. So I kind of did both career paths at the same time. And I just had the restaurant blood, but really more towards the Melting Pot blood in me. That's all I ever knew. It's the only restaurant I've ever worked in. And, the dream of being your own boss, and particularly at a young age of 24, I caught that bug as well, and started looking for locations. And at that time, it really, in my mind, it didn't cost a whole lot of money to get in it. I didn't have any money, but I figured I could find somebody that had that amount of money, which I figured at the time was about $200,000 to $300,000 to turnkey construction, everything. And it ended up being a little over 200. So long story short, I decided on Charlotte, North Carolina for my first restaurant. Went up there, negotiated a lease with the landlord. Figured banks, would lend me money because I had what I thought was a lot of experience. Found out very quickly that banks, yeah, they like experience and they like, resumes, and they like good, prospectuses and everything. And they all said all that looked great, but really what they want is collateral. And I didn't have any of that. So banks weren't too keen on loaning me money. Went about 6 months looking at every bank I could in North Carolina, every bank I could in Florida, where I was from, and got turned down by probably 30, 40 banks. Went to my landlord, who was Steve Harris at the time, and went to Steve and told Steve that, I didn't have the funds available. I couldn't get a loan from a bank, and I was going to have to move back to Florida, get a job. I knew I was guaranteed on the lease, and I would pay him what I could when I could, but I would fulfill my obligations on the lease over some unspecified period of time. And Steve said, Brian, I like the concept. I like you. What do you think if I invested and we went in 50-50 partners? So I did not negotiate. I said yes right away. And that's how I got the funding for the restaurant. We opened in November of 1989. And proud to say that that restaurant is still open in its original location. We've expanded it a couple times, remodeled it even more, but it's doing really well there. And even though I've owned multiple restaurants since then, that one is still probably the one closest to my heart.
How big is the portfolio right now?
Now I've kind of shrunk down a little bit. I have 7 melting pots, and then involved in a couple other concepts as well that are franchises.
So a few things I want to unpack here. An awesome opening story. I'm gonna tell you a comment that I saw in some of our marketing. They go, from dishwasher to franchisee. Yeah, right. Now,
yeah.
the reality is, but I think it's important to call out what I heard here. I hear vision, and you had to establish vision. Like if I think about vision 1 was I need a job, and then vision 2 is because you had a business sense, because you were hungry, that you're looking at this opportunity. You're saying, okay, what would it be like if I could own one of these someday? I hear tremendous amounts of hustle. Like at each line in your story, you end by saying, well, I didn't have anything. And you were looking for someone to give you a break, and you go to 40 banks and nobody's giving you a break. And then someone looks at you and says, you have the tools. And you flash forward even to what you own now, 7 melting pots, a few other businesses that fall under a portfolio. Like to go back and tell that dishwasher someday you're going to own 7 melting pots and a few other in the portfolio, most dishwashers would say, yeah, right. But when you have this like intangible of seeing brick walls and continuing to push through them because you have a vision that's so large, that's part of the magic of your story. When you reflect backwards on this, is it like, do you have that pinch myself moment to say, that's pretty incredible what happened, but it was because my currency was my hustle?
Yeah, I don't know if I pinch myself or whatever. I'm just I guess I always had a vision that if I worked hard and I and I treated people fairly, and I was honest, that whatever I decided to do, I can make happen. And I guess I think with Steve especially, because he was the investor that made it happen for me. Without his money, I couldn't have done it. I think maybe even just going back through our lease negotiations and being sincere in how I approached our lease negotiations with him, and being honest with him, and I think that kind of impressed him. At least that's what he's told me. And so formulating that relationship without even knowing I would need him someday as an investor. I just look back and I think I always believed in the American dream, and how, and I know that kind of sounds corny, but I always feel that each person has their own pathway to achieve it. And with mine, I always felt like having integrity and honesty and treating people, as my parents always said, treat people the way you want to be treated and beyond. And be honest with you, I think that's what's really helped me be successful in the restaurant business, is that that's the way I look at our guests that come in the door. Even to this day, I feel so privileged that they chose to come in my front door and have dinner at my restaurant and spend their time with me or in my place of business. That I have an obligation to treat them as well as I possibly can, and to show my appreciation for them. And so I guess when I talk to other landlords and other businesses, I almost like treat them as like their guests in my restaurant, so to say, or maybe I treat everybody that way. And I think maybe that's been the key to my success. And the other thing is I've really been able to bring in, different partners and been blessed with great management, and help provide them opportunities. I always looked at it, I want to pay forward what Steve did for me, for somebody else. And now that I have the financial resources and experience that I can help others the way Steve helped me. And to be honest with you, a lot of these guys run better restaurants than I do. So, and probably are, better business people than I am. So even though I'm investing with them and helping them get started, I learned so much from them as well. And we don't have egos. We all just work together, and we had just one common goal and dream, and that's to take care of our guests. And by taking care of them, everything else will kind of fall back to us and take care of us financially.
If you go back to when you're a dishwasher, are you carrying that same mentality? Because what I'm hearing is, like, in life, in the life that we live, money, it tends to be the easiest currency to measure. But what I'm hearing is like kindness and treating people the way you want to be treated. Like ultimately the 40 banks that rejected you, they couldn't see the intangible currency that you're bringing to the table. Finally, Steve did. And I assume you're seeing the exact same things in other people. And that's why you're investing in them and giving them the chance to do exactly what you did. You just need someone. Sometimes you just need someone to believe in you, and that's enough to give you a shot to make great things happen. But if you go back to being a dishwasher, did the mentality always there? It was just a matter of timing and opportunity that you needed.
Yeah, I just really enjoy hard work. I think it kind of makes you a better person, and to me, it gives me it motivates me. It gives me self-confidence that I can achieve something through hard work. And I remember my first night when I was washing dishes. I've never washed dishes in my life. I don't even think I washed dishes at home. I think, that was not one of the chores my mom made me do. So, I was just stuck back there and said, okay, here's a dishwasher, here's, a thing you squirt with, you open this door, you put the dishes in there, and I was like, okay. And so I started doing that, and I kind of look at the dishes, they come out, they're not that clean. And I was like, man, I must be doing something wrong. And fortunately, there was a guy named Marvin that had worked there, and he saw the dishes piling up behind me and everything and beside me. And he took pity on me and came back and said, Brian, let me kind of show you some tricks here. And he did. And, I never once thought I was going to quit, even with those dishes piling up and everything. I was like, this is something I need to learn how to do and do better and, master. And that's just dishes. But, to me, that's like anything else in life. You're mastering negotiating a lease, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or going to a bank now and borrowing hundreds of $1,000s or millions or whatever. It's to me, it's all the same level. Because, it's something, just because you haven't done it before, or you don't really know how to do it, you can work through it if you have confidence in yourself and you work hard and you trust in others and their advice. And are sincere when you negotiate and talk to them.
How many people have you helped put in business?
Oh man, I don't 20 or 30 maybe.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, like, let's say someone started working
More.
at one of your 7 today, and they walk in the door. Like, and obviously you talk about your story. I'm sure somewhere in the opportunity that they meet you, like, I started where you were at, and I've built something larger. Do you see, like, is that the moment that they have the twinkle in the eye that says, I believe that anything is possible? And the reason I'm asking the question, because I think majority of human beings that are going to break into the restaurant business and break in, not someone that owns a portfolio, someone that's breaking in, is going to be tighter on the capital, take some capital to get into Melting Pot. But like that hustle currency, like, it doesn't mean you have to give up. It just means you need to find the right person to believe in you. So the two sides of it, like, is that a moment that you see turn with the staff or any of these 20 or 30 people that you've helped get into business? Like, when you tell your story and they're like, I guess I never dreamt that big.
Yeah, I think before I even tell the story to them, because we give a little bit of a background whenever we hire somebody and we go through orientation. A little bit of background on not only the restaurant, the concept, the history of it, but also who the managers are, who the owners are, and we don't do that because we want to talk about ourselves or brag about ourselves. We do it because we want all employees to have an appreciation for how the business came to be. And also sometimes guests will ask, and it's nice if the server, the bartender, the host knows, the answers to their questions.
Yeah.
But really, I think before it even gets to the point where they want to really get into the details of my story and how to get into ownership, is that they see the way we manage the restaurant. And they see, whether it's myself or my wife or our other managers, they see that we walk the walk and talk the talk. We're down. Even to this day, I go back and I help wash dishes sometimes, or help prep food, or help serve tables, or pre-bus tables. Or I used to bartend pretty well, but I've kind of got out of practice of that, but I'll still go behind the bar and help out where I can. Help seat guests, greet guests at the host stand. Whatever needs to be done to take care of the guests. That's what we do in management. And yes, we help supervise, or we do supervise, and we train and everything. But anybody that has any experience in the restaurant business will tell you that you can plan for every single event that could possibly go that night in your mind, and you'll face something new. Some new challenge will happen, and you have to be able to think on your feet and react. And a lot of times it means you have to just put yourself in there to physically do the work, because everybody else is busy. Or sometimes people just need help, especially in the restaurant business. Things come in waves. Maybe the front door has a rush of people coming in the front door, so you see a bunch of people at one time. Well, when that happens, that means your server is going to get busy. Maybe they get 2 or 3 tables at one time, so they're going to need help, a little bit of service. While you're helping out the servers get the orders, greet the tables, now the orders start going into the kitchen. And so now your appetizer guy or your entree line guy is going to get overwhelmed. So maybe you need to go back there and help them out, for about 10, 20, 30 minutes. Whatever it needs to be done is what we as management, particularly as the owners, that's what we're here to do. And so I like to think that prospective employees that want to become management and then ultimately owners see that work ethic, and buy into that. And once I know that they have the same mentality that we have towards running a business and how we treat our team members, then I know that they could potentially be owners, because they have the mettle, to not put themselves above anybody.
So I thought, is that one of the harder parts of being a multi-unit operator, is that there's only so much Brian to go around, and that you talk about the impact of being in a restaurant, and sometimes you're gonna pull a Marvin, you're gonna go
Yeah.
back by the dishwasher and help out, and that mentality is great. Obviously, you're building up your units that hopefully the staff that is there to occupy the restaurant when you're not there, which is also the definition of integrity, is that they're going to do the same way. Like it's a very similar led philosophy. But is that the hardest part of being a multi-unit operator? Is that when you continue to scale up, you can't have impact at every location?
Um, I wouldn't say that's the hardest part for me because, I have ownership partners in those locations that I trust and have full faith in. Um, I think for me, the most difficult part is I really enjoy being physically involved in the restaurants, even to this day. And being a multi-unit operator, a lot of the times I spend now behind a desk or I'm on the phone. And those, be honest with you, the last place I like being is behind a desk. And the second thing I like doing least is being on the phone. But I really enjoy just, physically being in the restaurant and interacting with people in person. Like I would much rather do this interview with you sitting in a chair across from me in the same room.
Right.
I just like more in-person contact. Probably the biggest challenge with me, with my partners and my management and everything, particularly, the younger guys is, everybody likes to talk through texting and voicemails and emails and everything. And, you know, I hate to type, even when I'm texting. So when I do that, I make it as brief a text or an email as I possibly can. And sometimes people take it that I'm angry. And I'm like, no, if I'm angry, I'll call you and you'll know. Um, but yeah, I would say communication is probably my biggest challenge, just because of the way I prefer to communicate, being in person and having multi units and different states and everything is kind of challenge. I'd really like to see them more and spend more time in person with them,
I've seen
rather than over.
I've seen so much in our conversation here. I've seen so much in just I open up the doors of Melting Pot Corporate, which, as a side note, it every time I've gone into corporate, I'm blown away again because like the outside of the building doesn't show like the how awesome the energy is when you walk in that door. But I think about like the culture behind this business. It's like uh, almost everybody has a melting pot story or memory of something that's happened at a melting pot. But it's like it still ends up being like the best kept secret in business because you would think it should be and maybe it's growing at the right pace, but it should be so much larger than it is because it is a consistent culture experience, whether I'm talking to you or I'm looking at it or I'm experiencing Bob. Like it's so rich, but it almost feels like it's like a hidden culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is. It's I think that goes back to the days, where, Bob, who's, the CEO, he was like me. He was, we washed dishes together side by side. We prepped food together. We served together. He got in management really young. Um, and he'll be the first to tell you he made some mistakes when he was really young. And being college kids and everything at the time, we made sure Bob knew when he made a mistake, in a good way, and, just by teasing and stuff like that. And then when Bob went down and worked with his brothers in, the franchising, I think Mark and Mike had similar backgrounds as well, is that, they were operators first. And I don't think that mentality ever left them. The culture that restaurant that I worked in, and the way Mike managed it with Bob, and it it and I think other franchises will say the same thing, particularly back in those days, because we were still learning things. We were growing. Melting Pot, we changed a lot, and even when we became owners, Bob and Mark and Mike, our room was maybe 15 to 20 people, and we're all owners. And, we collaborated a lot on how we were going to grow sales and grow the menu and add new products, change our service to better serve our guests, think of new tools, equipment that we could use to do that. And a lot of it was just brainstorming, and we worked as a team to do that. And so I think as, we grew and everything, I kind of see what Bob has done, with the corporate offices in a similar manner, that he collaborates, and the team that works with him collaborates in that way as well. And in that spirit that we did way back when we were just 15 to 19 owners, not really knowing what we were doing, but figuring if, we were honest with each other and told each other we didn't know what we were doing, that together we could figure it out. And, thank God we did.
Like, for someone that has or is watching this live, or watches this in the future, is that part of the magic of becoming a franchisee? Like, instantly you are put into a culture that is really an operational culture around guest experience to really lift up, and it's the whole community. Like, as a franchisee, you are now almost a guest of the other franchisees. Like, you all take people under your wings, and you all give the best effort to make them successful in collaboration. And maybe the word family is too big of a word, but it's like, there's something special about this. Is that part of, like, if someone's watching this to say, why am I picking Melting Pot? It's because it's a culture that can't be described, but when you're in it, that you're surrounded by a whole bunch of different people that support your hustle or want to make the next dishwasher the next great franchisee. Is that part of the magic here?
Yeah, for sure. What Bob jokes around every now and then, and actually we train. So our conventions we actually call reunions, and so once a year we all get together as franchisees, and over time we used to have meetings like all day long, different meetings, different speakers would come in, and we were lectured to, and then over time, and then part of those meetings, once the meetings were over at night, is when all the franchisees got together, and that's when we really started collaborating, exchanging ideas, and just kind of building that bond with each other. And to Bob's credit, he saw that, and so at our reunions now we have much less meetings, and more time where we're collaborating with franchisees and with franchisor in smaller groups. We have more free time together. And, our free time, yeah, we're having a good time together, but part of that good time is, we're just always talking business and always exchanging ideas. And it's really built a lot of friendships within the community. Even, sometimes we've even decided to do some restaurants together. So we've actually spurred some growth within the franchise, just by having this free time together and spending time together and getting to know each other. And, I always say, some of my best friends in the world are fellow franchisees that I've gotten to know through meetings. And actually a couple of them were vendors that I got to know. Said, I don't want to be a wine vendor anymore. I want to own my own business, and I want to be in the restaurant business. And so, one of our most successful guys, Mark Rosenthal, met me as a wine rep, and he's just had tremendous success, with the company. Probably one of the smartest guys I know.
If I think back on the story that you shared, and I want to close with this because I think it will wrap it up nicely. Like, I hear a lot of dreaming in your life, like dreaming for whatever's next along this journey. And so you dream about having a job, and then you dream about owning a melting pot, or you moving up through management, then owning a melting pot. You dream about scaling, which you did. You dream about impacting other people, which you have. What's the next dream? Like, there's no way you can't stop dreaming. You're too big of a dreamer. Like what's the next dream that you want to do?
Well, I feel like I'm living the dream now. So, I think with me, my next step in life is to be able to step back even a little more and have even more trust than I already have in my management and my partners. And, maybe, my wife and I want to travel, spend some more time together rather than at work because she works with me. And kind of enjoy some of the fruits of our labor a little bit, but also by doing that, empowering our partners and our management and our team members even more, and to help them fulfill their dreams. And maybe that's where I see myself more as even more of a mentor than I have been.
I'll say this.
Spend
I love that answer. I would imagine, and whether it's 20 or it's 30 or it's more than that, that's where some of your story starts. But because of your mentality in life and the way that you're treating people, operationalizing relationships to make sure that the guest, whoever is a fellow franchisee, a wine vendor, it doesn't matter who it is, that they're getting some sort of return out of having a conversation with you. I would imagine because of those extensions that you've created, they've also created more extensions. And so if you were able to zoom out of the impact that you've had, it's actually quite tremendous. But I would imagine now knowing you, you won't zoom out. You're too humble. You were not going to zoom out and see the impact that you've had. But it's awesome to hear this because, like, I think, I mean, when I started our company, I saved up $8,000, which wasn't a ton at the time, and I took a risk to quit my job, break up with a girlfriend, move to Atlanta to get something going. And in the early stages, all I was looking for is a few people that would believe in me, and the belief. The power of the belief gave me so much energy to do more things and have more impact and hire more people and train them up and help them on their careers. And I see a lot of the same in your story, and I think it's really, really cool. But above everything that we're talking about, just because you don't come from money or just because you don't have money doesn't mean you can't make your dreams come true with great hustle and treating people well. And I think that's the best part of stories like this, is you can see that it actually came to fruition. And your last line of, I feel like I am living the dream, is that's the icing that we all want on this life cake. And I think it's awesome. And I'm grateful that you were able to share some of your story with me today. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thanks. Thanks for your time and your questions, and I enjoyed it as well.
I love it. So for anybody that's been watching, I mean, obviously this is a glimpse into what a day in the life of a franchise owner is, but also the mentality as it relates to Melting Pot. And I'm hopeful that anybody that watched this, you got some value out of our discussion that helps you go on whatever dream you're trying to accomplish too. So for Brian, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Z, the Melting Pot webinar. Thank you for watching live, or thank you for watching in the future. Thanks, everybody.